Come on, Jesus.
Ian. And his last name is pronounced Fidance. Ian Fidance. Dating trans. Ian Fidance. Now they call him trash. Yeah. Ian Fidance. Learn to dance. Get it on. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Electra, both with the work that she put in and by not showing up, has incredibly hindered this program today.
No, it's amazing. What are you talking about?
I date trans women because I'm from the future, okay? Yeah, I like my women like I like my undershirts, tucked. And, dating trans women, it's helped me evolve. It's helped me learn. I was with this gal, and she was using different terms for things that I had never really heard of or thought of before. We're back at my apartment, and we're making love, from behind, doggy love, and... And she goes, yeah, fuck my pussy. And I was like, oh, that's fun. She calls her ass a pussy. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm fucking your pussy, And then she was like, yeah, suck my girl dick. And I was like, that's a bit of an oxymoron, but who am I? And then she said one that came really out of left field. She goes, yeah, lick my clit. And I was like, well, now I'm fucking confused, lady. And then I was like, oh my God, trans women are women, because I can't find the clit on them either.
Hey-o.
That's funny. That's a perfectly fine joke. I like it. And then,
what do you like about it, Blind Mike?
I thought it was funny. But then people lost their minds on Ian and were like going after him on Twitter. It's crazy. Now,
everyone from all sides.
Here's where Matt Rife is correct. Nothing happened to Ian. He didn't lose any jobs or gigs or anything. Ultimately, he was fine. But where cancel culture still does and has always existed is now if you Google Ian Fidance, this shit's going to come up. And there's a thing where we don't know what that stuff costs him. So I think it's very childish of people to have meltdowns online when you didn't like a joke. So this is Ian talking about what he dealt with, the backlash from that joke, which to me, I think it's cool and very progressive that we're in a place now where trans people are just part of the discussion. Ian Fidance is in a circle of comedy. We'll hear him on Louis J. Gomez's podcast here, the Real Ass Podcast. And fans of that podcast have been labeled as Nazis and homophobic and sexist and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's the audience that Ian's talking to. And you hear everyone there laughing and enjoying the show. And that's the same with Jim Norton. Is this classically homophobic audience got behind Jim Norton and supported him for all those years with all the content that he was putting out and the subjects that he was talking about. So the people that are being labeled like this are the ones that aren't hateful, and the ones that are supposedly progressive are the ones going after Ian Fidance here.
Yes, and a little thing about comedy is that comedy finds market inefficiencies. Right? If there's a part of the society that's not being talked about, comedy will eventually find it. And Ian Fidance goes, hey, no one's talking about being a straight guy banging trans girls.
Right.
Boom, that's my lane. Boom, I got it,
Exactly, yeah.
All right, here we go. And this is the reaction on Gas Digital.
Yeah, Dougie, what happened? You posted this very trans-friendly clip.
That's what I'm saying.
Extremely trans-friendly. You're talking about making love to a trans woman, using the pronouns. You do what you're supposed to do in a joke, which is use colorful language and funny words, and it's so inclusive.
Yes.
You're not saying fuck these freaks. You're saying I date transgendered women, and
he's saying I date these freaks.
At that point, I feel once you say that, you go all right, now you're including them. This is what everyone wants, right? They want to be included. You don't want people to fucking act like you don't exist. Yeah. Isn't that the opposite thing?
Bro, first of all, in real life, the joke is people love it. On Instagram, I'm getting all this this is how you make a trans joke. This is great, papa. And then on Twitter, I am getting death threats and It's the joke hinges on the fact that it's weird to deal with new phrases, but you roll with it because you're not an asshole. And so it's my experience of hearing these things and going, huh, okay, all right. And then the final, I'm the butt of the joke. The final punchline is trans women are women because I can't find the clit on them either.
Yeah.
And all these people are like, this loser can't find the clit. He can't please a woman. And it's like.
And also, trans clits are fucking just massive bulbous cocks. So they're pretty easy to find. Yeah.
I know. You can see them from space in some of these, you know? And it's like the reason I kept going back and forth with them is because it was so infuriating to have this thing. Like my whole specials about me and navigating the world is like a weirdo and trying to make it
you're
work.
A little freaky, you're a little creepy gay.
Yeah, I'm not creepy. I'm a pervert for sure, but I'm not a creep.
I guess creepy has more negative connotations.
Thank you.
I consider myself a creep.
So do a lot of people.
Yeah.
But that's what I find interesting is like, maybe Ian didn't lose anything for this and you didn't ruin his life by coming at him. But there is like a culture now where it's still the knee-jerk reaction is like, let's ruin this guy's day or his week or whatever. Like, let's fuck with this guy until he feels like he has to apologize or bow down to us or something. So I like that Ian was going back and forth with them. And yeah, as Matt Rife said, like, nothing happened. But I do think, like, we're in a good place in comedy now. As the roast showed, like, on the Tom Brady roast, they basically just got up and had athletes call Tom gay for 2 hours, you know? Like, that's what a lot of it was. So I think joking about stuff like that is back. But, like, it's a fine line that comedy is walking right now, where a lot of these guys that do tell edgy jokes are getting massively successful and reaching new audiences. And what's weird about Ian Fidance is like he seems like a comic that should be for progressive, open-minded people. He's a guy who's talking about having sex and being attracted to trans women, and yet they're going, oh, fuck you, you're not progressive enough for us. It's a weird reaction to have, and that's what I worry as like comedy seems to be getting bigger just as an art form and becoming more mainstream is like, are you going to have more and more reactions like that over the next few years? We're swinging back in one direction, and I worry we're already starting to drift away from that, you know?
We've become two societies, I think, at this point. One who can take a joke, one who can't. Period.
Yeah, that's a good point, where it is like, it just depends what circle you walk in, I guess. Like if Ian Fidance was trying to get on, you know, Colbert or something, the reaction might have been different. But I do think people who like Louis is a perfect example of that. Louis J. Gomez is a guy that labels his podcast as offensive. He runs a festival called Skank Fest. Like, there's no misunderstanding who he is. And that's why when I see like Bert and Tom on social media becoming these self-help guys, it's like, oh, that's dangerous territory, because now you're saying to just people that don't get your comedy, hey, come over here and see what I'm doing, you know?
Yes. Oh, and you totally reminded me. Do you know the one area of the Tom Brady roast that Tom Brady said they could not make jokes of?
Kraft and his kids.
The Kraft one was like sort of in the air. No one said it. But Tom Brady specifically said, don't make fun of me kissing my kids.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you imagine the jokes that could have gone on right there? Oh, my God.
I know, yeah. Which I get that. My point was like, Tom might genuinely be watching out for his kids. Like,
yeah, he is. He's a good dude.
Even though the joke the joke is at the expense of Tom Brady. It's making fun of him for being a weird dad. But then his kid is involved and has to like respond. His friends are going to make jokes like that now. You know, it's a whole thing. So
how is that guy so normal for being like the greatest athlete ever? I got to say, from the West Coast,
I don't know how normal he is. He's pretty. If you look into like the Alex Guerrero stuff, he's an odd dude, and I think that's what he was trying to dispel with that roast, because he's getting into broadcasting. I think he was basically trying to say like, hey, I'm not, you know all the old the Himalayan pink salt shit, like his diet and all that stuff. I think he's trying to shed that. Like there was a while where it seemed like Tom Brady was in a cult with all the TB12 stuff. And I think the roast is him being like, hey, I'm a normal guy. When you watch me on Fox next year, just remember I'm a regular guy, you know?
TB12 works, baby. Have you seen that man do a 40 in his 40s? Oh, my God.
That's true. It's a good point.
This is a marvel of science. All right, here we go. This one's called Autistic Dudes in Dresses.
Some just really grinds my gears about not being understood. And I guess because I get so much shit from straight people about being gay for being with trans women, and then to get told that I'm like evil for even talking about dating trans women from these fucking people, and they're not even real
And
trans
can I tell you
women.
here's the thing.
They're fucking
Ian,
autistic
your
dudes
problem,
in dresses.
Your problem
Ew.
is
What?
this is the truth, and because you are a real comic, and you're
Are
very
you saying you're damned if they're dudes, damned if they don't?
Who's that fat guy? He's pretty funny.
Zach Amico. Zach Amico is one of the great podcast snipers ever. Like, I would say him and Jim Norton are pretty much in that elite category. But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting to hear Ian talk about, like, I'm a weird guy. I have weird, like, sexual proclivities that for a long time were just completely shit upon. And I found my lane. I found a group of people that are interested in hearing me talk about it. His special is called Wild, Happy, and Free. Like, it's him. It's kind of his, coming out party is probably the wrong phrase, but you know what I mean? Like, it's him being open and honest about who he is. And there's a group of people online that are just like, fuck you. You're not doing it right now.
Yeah.
And it's the group that, like, he thought for sure he would be accepted by. And they're like, no, go fuck yourself. You know, you tried to be too individualistic, and you don't line up with exactly what we are. It's the danger of people like, we talk about that Daniel Alexander, Woke Dad, that we talk about on WATS Thursdays at 6, folks. If you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you do. But it's the danger of people like that, where it's like, oh, if someone is not to the teeth how you want them to be as a person, you will just turn your back on them and berate them and, try to ruin them in a weird way. So that's where I think, like, the remnants of cancel culture still does exist. But I do find the Matt Rife argument interesting because we played, I think one of the times you were on recently, Hack Ride, we played Daniel Tosh talking about it. I forget, there was someone else. Oh, Tony Hinchcliffe talked about it, where people are saying, like, basically cancel culture doesn't exist or whatever. And I totally understand their point, but there is an element of our society that wants to jump on people and do whatever is in their power to shame them or ruin them in some way. And that's the aspect that I still think is wrong. And I thought it was interesting to hear Ian talk about dealing with that, because it wasn't a major event in his life, and in a year he might have already forgotten about it. But it is interesting that there's a group of people that are just like, fuck you, you're not allowed to be one of us. Like, that to me is very interesting.
Yes. Although with the mustache, he is clearly one of them.
Sure, yeah.
This one's called pandering.
In real life, these people are coming to shows and they go, hey, thanks for including us and not making us feel like we're like handicapped and like these like weird untouchable whatevers. And I'm like, yeah, of course, now get away from me, freak. But I'm obviously
And then the other
kidding.
problem is you're like the problem with you and your ilk, right? So then they take that because you wrote that and you were talking about idiots.
That's,
Yes!
that's,
what you're
that's
talking
what I say when I see these women. I go, ugh.
So
I was not even
I
talking
know,
about
but then
trans
they-
people. I
then
was
they
talking
go,
about
"Oh,
people
that's what he means."
that don't get jokes.
Ian, you're trying to pander.
I know.
to
I'm not
these
trying to pander.
people
I'm not
that-
pandering.
Well,
I'm not fucking pandering.
Well,
Take
can
that
I,
back.
Can oh, you're not pandering. But I did retweet a couple like people just because they were somewhat on your side, but they were.
I
It
was
would be
drowning.
It was a person. They'd be like, you know what? He's not that funny, but I understand why he was trying to be funny.
And I
He was
could
like,
not
retweet.
have hit the retweet fast enough. I was like, oh, thank God, somebody coming to save me. Oh, my God.
I think that's the other element of it too, and I think that's kind of what Matt Rife was talking about, where like it feels like in Ian Finance's world he was drowning. Go ask anyone in your lives about this, particularly if they don't follow stand-up. Like, they don't even know it exists. They don't know who Ian Finance is. They don't know that this happened on Twitter. It's nothing to most people, and that's the mindset you kind of have to keep. Is like, if 400 people today get in my comments and try to ruin me, it will feel like my life is over. I'll be like, oh fuck. But then you have to take a step outside and be like, oh, that doesn't even exist, really. Like, none of that's happening. So I think that's Matt Rife's argument, among other people, where it's like, if you're able to separate yourself from the internet for a minute, you realize it's kind of all bullshit. And I think that's a healthy place we're at in society, where it's like, it's kind of the way, 100 years ago, they would smoke cigarettes in a doctor's office. And 20 years ago, we were smoking them in restaurants and on airplanes and shit. You just learn things about certain vices and how dangerous they are. And it seems like society is finally learning that about social media. Brian Callen, not so much. He's suicidal. But the rest of us are learning that social media and what you're watching on a lot of these like streaming services and everything, once you step aside from it, it doesn't even really exist.